We are live.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Tula's so excited. She has no idea what's happening, but she's here for it. Oh my word. Hello, hello, hello. I am here. I am Emily Alisi. You guys know me. This is Tula. You guys know Tula. Say hi, Tula. Okay. Wow, if looks could kill right now.
She communicated a lot with just a look, didn't she?
Yes, she really did. She really did. She communicated a lot with just a look. Looks are powerful things. What's up? So Molly is commenting today, and as a viewer, as a participant, and normally Sister Straight Talk on Thursdays, Molly and I are here together dancing with Tula. And today, Molly is on the other side of this because we have a very, sorry, Tula. Okay, I am gonna put her down. Okay.
And what Molly doesn't know is that I am auditioning to take her place secretly. Oh, the secret's out now.
We weren't supposed to say okay. Sorry. Okay, so what we have for you today is a very, very special live. I am here with my good friend, Melissa. Melissa and I go way back in the Wayback Machine, and we did improv together back when I did a ton of improv with Comedy Sports, and Melissa and I have known each other for years through the improvisational community. And so, Melissa, I will not steal your thunder, and I won't steal everything that that you do and that you are and what you're about. But what I will say is that Melissa and I were chatting, last week, the week before last, and you know, we talk time to time, and you're an entrepreneur and I'm an entrepreneur. And I don't know why every time I say the word entrepreneur, it sounds weird to me. Entrepreneur. It sounds weird to me. The more I say it, the more weird it sounds. And you have, you and I have talked a bit about how with everything that's happened in the world this past year in particular, how it's created so much upheaval in so many people's lives, and it's just caused a lot of change, and it's caused a lot of new growth. And you and I have kind of chatted a little bit about how, when you're set up with something that is already e-commerce, already online, already something, not in the brick and mortar space, how when you're already set up for that and you're already kind of doing that consistency, how, wow, this past year's been crazy in a good way. It's been crazy in a good way. So anyway, so we were chatting and we're like, let's talk about consistency, and let's talk about how important it is to be consistent when it comes to being an entrepreneur, and really what that means for two people that just started, just kind of met doing improv, and now look at us.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be talking with you today, and that we connected a week ago or so to talk about this. I think, like you said, yeah, we met doing improv, but I think there's a certain thing about our personalities that kind of lines up. We both have a personality that would work to be an entrepreneur, or I solve that problem by saying small business owner all the time. So we don't have to worry about sounding weird. Feel the same way. It's okay. Because I know, when we were around the time that I met you, I accidentally started my business because actually I was looking for jobs and nobody would hire me at the time. It was kind of tough to break into Seattle for me when I was living there. And so the business started by accident. And for me, it grew because I was consistent, because I was really determined, because I was showing up for myself all the time, even though when you're starting out a business or when you're really starting anything new in life, you don't really get that validation from other people very often. So you have to be there for yourself constantly.
That is such a good point. We didn't even talking about that, but that is such a good point. And you just reminded me of the power of urgency in what you do. And if you have a big why behind what you're doing, then, and you show up with urgency behind what you're doing, and you're not relying on other people's, affirmations outside of yourself, but your own internal sense of urgency, then that's going to be one thing that propels you to be consistent.
Absolutely. I think if you're waiting around with anything that you're determined to do, any sort of goal that you have in life, any sort of dream that you're working towards, and that includes in your business, but also in a personal life, I feel like if you're waiting on other people to make things happen for you, it's probably not going to happen. And if it does, it's definitely not going to happen when it's convenient for you. So I think, if you start walking that path yourself, if you start doing what you know you need to do, taking care of yourself, taking care of the project that you're working on, going towards your goals, I think you find that the people who need to be involved start coming to you. And I don't mean to say it just happens, but I've found that if I do start taking initiative for myself and I just do my thing, I've found that the people who are there to be part of my journey, they do appear at some point in the process. And had you not started taking those steps, they wouldn't have shown up at that time because they didn't know you were doing anything. So yeah, I think you got to go out there and get it done. And I've seen you do the same exact thing.
Yeah. Okay. We could talk about everything that you just said. We could take each sentence of everything that you just said.
Mic drop.
And we could do just talk about that. Like, who needs to talk about consistency? We could just talk about that. Guys, let us know you're here. Smash that heart button. Drop it in the comments. Say hello. Let us know that you're here. And again, just talking with my good friend, Melissa. And Melissa, you mentioned this super in passing, but for those people that don't already know, Melissa is, well, none of our audience knows because nobody in our audience knows you. But for those of you who don't know, Melissa recently moved from Seattle to Hermosa Beach, California. We were just chatting before we went live about one, I think, just fun thing, and this is just kind of a little random side, but one of the things that, I'm from Michigan, you're from New York originally. We met in Seattle, and there is something in Seattle. Those of you in Seattle who are not originally born in Seattle, you know this is something called the Seattle Freeze. And the Seattle Freeze is people being very not friendly, but they don't know that they're not being friendly. They don't know that they're not being friendly. It's just from the Midwest, everybody's warm and welcoming, and how are you doing? And here's a casserole. And then, New York is a totally different vibe, but hey, Tamara, thanks for hopping on.
Hey, Tamara.
But one of the things that you just mentioned to me about being in Hermosa Beach, go ahead and share that because I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's, let me tell you folks, it's friendly here. And I don't know what to do about it. Sometimes it's so friendly. It's like a culture shock and I love it. But I live about 15, I can walk to the beach in about 15 minutes. So I'm constantly going for walks along the Strand, which is our version of a boardwalk over here. And I just have people come up to me and it's not just saying hi and like making eye contact or how are you? It's like you could end up having a multiple minute conversation with them. And sometimes diving in as far as like what it's like to be pregnant in your 40s, which happened a couple weeks ago. I had somebody approach me over the weekend and he stopped me and he was like, "You have a strong walk and it's amazing." Thank you, sir. I honestly, like when somebody approaches me, the New Yorker in me wants to shrink back. The Seattleite in me wants to get passive aggressive. And the now Californian in me is like, "Hey, how are you doing?" Yeah. And I'm having a shift quite a lot, but I'm appreciating it.
You're like three worlds in one person. You're three different worlds in one person. That is so funny. I like you have a strong walk. That's so amazing. What an amazing compliment. I love that.
Oh, man, and he asked me how I do it. And I was like, "You actually want to know?" This is great.
Oh my gosh. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Leslie. Thanks for hopping on. Guys, hey, we have a fun giveaway, and it's something that we've never given away before because we've never had Melissa on before. And Melissa, I want you to share a little bit about what you do as well, because we've kind of missed that. We haven't even said what you do. So you're going to see, we're going to have that in a second, but also Melissa's going to share a fun little fact about herself. Fun random fact about something she really enjoys, maybe eating, maybe drinking, or maybe something else. She's going to be a fun little random fact that she's going to find a way to fit into the conversation.
Slip it right in.
Yeah, and whoever is noticing that and drops it in the comments will win a free giveaway from Melissa. And Melissa, tell us what your business is. I mean, everybody who watches our live Sister Straight Talk, they know what Molly and I are all about. They know our mission is about creating a better life, a better day, a better future. Whether it's like taking care of yourself, or whether it's your finances, or whether it's your mindset, or whether it's your health or nutrition, it's about being better together. So tell us a little bit about what you do as an entrepreneur, my favorite word.
Absolutely. And I do just want to say, Carrie, I also envision myself as John Travolta striding down the street a Saturday Night Fever. In case you're wondering, that's probably where the comment came from this man. But anyway, so my business, I'm, like I said, I actually started my business by accident. I used to work in the Olympic world. I did like Olympic Winter Games and Rugby World Cups. And then 8 years ago, I started my business, and it's called Melissa Forziat Events and Marketing. So primarily the people that I work with are small businesses that are trying to market on a budget. And because we're trying to market on a budget, they often don't have a ton of budget to work with me. So we kind of work with what budget they have to figure out, do you need consulting? Do you need somebody to do it for you? Do you need 1 hour with a lot of good ideas that are high powered for you just to go out there and do it? So I've got a lot of different ways that I can work with people, but really it's all about supporting people who have businesses to figure out how to get their message in front of other people. And I think even just that topic, I mean, I know that we're going to talk about consistency in general, but when it comes to my business and what I teach people to do and what I have to do for my own business to make it work, consistency is the name of the game. Because if you're out there one day and then gone for 2 months, people will not know you're there anymore. And it just doesn't work like that in business. And I see you, Emily, and Molly too. I see you together all the time, out there constantly making sure people know you're there, making sure you're supporting people, providing value, providing good information, engaging with people.
Just in case nobody knows, we're here, guys. Just in case you haven't noticed, we're here.
Absolutely. So I think it's so important that you do that. And, so for me, this whole theme of today is absolutely critical. It's something I'm constantly telling people to do about, when it comes to their marketing and when it comes to their business. But, I've had to think a lot about even what it means in my own life. So, I've been very much focused on my business for years now, but in the last couple of years, I also got really focused on taking care of myself. And I think consistency is just as important in that area too. So I know I went into what I do and then pivoted straight back to the topic, just in case you all didn't notice what happened there.
It was like smooth as silk. It was smooth. Yeah. You should do some improv because you're really good with those segues and those smooth transitions.
Yeah, I see some people in the comments who were noticing what happened. It's good.
Yeah, it's very, very smooth. Hello, Jeff. Yes, and guys, listen for Melissa to share a fun fact about herself that may have something to do with what she likes to eat, maybe not. And one lucky person who drops that in the comments will win a free giveaway from Melissa. And today we're talking about consistency. So let's dive in a little bit to kind of the moral of the story, as it were. And really our question of the day that Melissa and I are going to discuss is, have you ever considered the time investment in some of the world's greatest achievements? And this is going to show you how consistency matters in a way that I think in modern society we have totally forgotten about. So in modern society, we get super impatient if our popcorn doesn't pop fast enough. We're like, oh my gosh, it takes how long? A minute, 2 minutes? I don't even have time to wait for that. But let's talk a little bit about the role of consistency in some of the world's greatest achievements that honestly, these achievements would have never been accomplished in today's modern society. If the average, person growing up in today's world had to accomplish some of these things, they would have never been accomplished because they would have not had the patience to wait for it to be accomplished. So let's talk through a couple of these things. So it took 26 months to build the Eiffel Tower. 26 months. What is that? 2 years and 2 months.
It's a lot of nights going to bed thinking, is this thing ever going to get done?
Yes. And we're so impatient when it comes to traffic cones and, for a couple of months on the highways, and it took 26 months to build the Eiffel Tower. So we're just going to go through a list of a couple things just to open our mindset to the consistency that the people had to put in to make these things even happen. It took Da Vinci 4 years to paint the Mona Lisa. 4 years. But we get 4 years, but we get impatient if we don't get, enough likes on our Instagram post in like the next hour, or the video that we created to post takes too long and it takes like an hour for us to put together. And this masterpiece that has stood the test of time took 4 years. Let's talk about Michelangelo. It took him 4 years to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Are you guys catching it? What are the comments here? When a video doesn't load fast enough, 4 years. Yes, 26 months, Eiffel Tower. You got it, guys. You got it. Okay, let's talk about another one. It took Tolstoy over 6 years to write War and Peace.
Oh, my goodness.
6 years. Wow. Who in today's modern society would take that long? First of all, their publisher would fire them.
It's like, Tolstoy, show me those pages.
Exactly. Your deadline is April. Where are those pages? Your deadline was 2 months ago. Nobody has patience for that. It took around 30 years to build the Great Pyramid. I love these comments, guys. It took over 40 years before Beethoven's Für Elise was performed.
I just want to make it clear, 32 years to find a husband, commitment. That is commitment.
Yes, that is.
You got to put in the work.
Yeah. 30 years to publish your first poem. Yeah, there we go, Carrie. You guys got it. So imagine this. You are an artist, you are Beethoven, and you write this tremendous piece of music. And basically, you think it's a loss. Nobody will ever see it. What's the point? What was the point of all that time and effort? Why did I even write that? And you would kind of just throw in the towel that it was a waste of time because it took 40 years before it was even performed. And now it's one of the most recognized, well-loved pieces of music in all of history. But it took 40 years. Most people would have been on to the next thing. Throw it away. Burn it. It's a waste. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants it. Okay, let's talk about one more. Noah, biblical, it took 100 years to build the ark. 100 years. Most people, in today's world, most people don't even live 100 years, so that's different. You'd be like passing it on to your grandchild to finish building. But it took 100 years to build the ark. So these are just examples of the patience, because when we talk about consistency, it's really about patience and the knowledge and understanding that we've become a culture that doesn't appreciate time anymore. I want to know your thoughts on that, Melissa. What do you think about the fact that we've become a culture that doesn't appreciate time anymore?
I think it's so skewed. I think there's a certain immediacy that's constantly expected. I think part of that happens because I think we see the world in headlines. I think that every time we hear about something, somebody calls us and they tell us an update on what's happening in their lives, or we see something on social media and somebody puts that information out there, or we see, an article about somebody who's achieved something. We're seeing the headlines of their greatest successes, and that's all we're seeing. And we're not seeing the 100 years, the 40 years, the 20 years, the 30 years it took to do all these things that we're talking about.
What's that one saying? It took 40 years for me to become an overnight success.
It's so true. And I think, we're so quick to look, if we're going to be results driven, then the only thing that's going to matter to us is that headline. But in fact, it was probably a pretty significant process to get to just about anything we've ever done in our lives. So, you have to really figure, where's the value? On the flip side of that, I want to say, because I think that, yes, we put a lot of emphasis on the result and a lot of emphasis on the headline of it all and a lot of emphasis on the quick turnaround. but have you ever had somebody reach out to you and send you a quick note or say something that made you think, oh, you've actually been watching what I've been doing for a while now. Like I've been inspiring you for a while. I hope everybody's had that feeling. Like in the chat, have you ever, everybody who's listening right now, have you ever had the experience of somebody saying to you, yeah, I've been watching what you've been up to for a while, or like, actually, I did this because you inspired me when I saw you do this thing way back when. And a lot of times when people do that, it's not about the big moments. It's about the little moments. It's about you showed up at practice every day, or, I always saw you doing this. I always saw you doing this. And it's like, that is, there's a quiet appreciation, I think, that some people have.
Oh, that's such a powerful point. And I want to add to that. I've also had people reach out and say the same thing, and they don't mean it in a negative way, but they almost say it in a way where they're surprised, like they didn't expect it to still be going so well, or they didn't expect me to still be doing it, or they didn't expect it to still be something that's happening, right? And so because people don't expect you to be consistent, because most people aren't. And we all have those people that we know in our life who have started something new, or started their own business, or launched a new brand, or I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to be building up my Instagram account, or, whatever it is. And then 6 months later, like, whatever happened to that? Is that something you're still doing? And it's most people don't have the patience, honestly, to be in the trenches where you're not an overnight success, and it takes you 40 years to really get anywhere, and it takes you even a year before people even really start noticing, oh yeah, that's what you're doing, oh yeah, maybe I should talk to you about that, oh yeah. And it takes a long time, and people are almost surprised when you're successful. What would do you feel like that same thing happens to you too?
It does. I do feel that way. And it happens for me a lot, even in my business, where I'll have, a lot of times I'll get people who contact me because for my business, I have to be consistent and constantly be putting out information about marketing. Because for my clients, it can take a really long time for them to be ready with the budget to actually work with me. So I do a little marketing tip every week, and I send it out in a newsletter. Every single Wednesday, it hits the inbox. And I will tell you this, 2 weeks ago, somebody contacted me and said, hey, Melissa, I attended a speaking engagement of yours in, I think it was 2016. So I attended a speaking engagement of yours in 2016. I've been on your newsletter list and receiving your emails, and I'm ready to work with you now. That, folks, was 5 years ago. And the fact that I was still in front of that person meant that they were still thinking of me at the time they were ready to work with a marketer. And this is not the first time this has happened. That's the longest period of time I've ever heard, but usually I hear 1 or 2 years. And that's still a long time to be sending somebody a weekly email and not have heard a thing from them. And then all of a sudden you find out that they've been paying attention to you. I've had people reach out to me, not ready to work with me yet, but say, I'm not ready to work with you yet, but I do want you to know that I'm reading what you're writing. It's really valuable to me. And I have little words from you on Post-it notes all over my computer, like stuff like that. When you hear a couple things like that in your life, it shows you that you should keep doing it. But if you haven't heard that yet, assume that there's somebody out there watching. And if there's not, if it's just you, do you feel good about the fact that you've kept at it and kept going? I think whether that validation comes from you or from somebody else, so many of these great things wouldn't have been achieved if people just stopped midstream. So, you just got to keep at it, and you have to keep working and doing the things that are going to get you closer to your goals.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. All of it is so good. Guys, if you're just joining, thanks so much. I'm here with my friend, Melissa, who is a marketing expert.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Marketing expert. Yes. And we're talking about the power of consistency. We're talking about the role consistency plays in being an entrepreneur, and how really we're exploring the fact that as a society, our default setting is impatience. And most people nowadays, especially, don't understand the power of consistency, because we can't even wait for popcorn to pop without becoming impatient. So we can't even, we don't think long term. I think that societally we've been conditioned to think short term mindset. We live on 30-day monthly cycles. We live on like, working and waiting for the weekend mode. We live in a very short-term mindset. Accomplish this to get to that. Accomplish this to get to that. And we don't really take the time to see the big picture. And so our question of the day is really, have you ever thought about what you could accomplish if you were consistent? Thinking back, I mean, digging a little deeper into the psyche of maybe things that you've started and stopped and started and stopped and started and stopped, and just thinking about where would you be right now if you hadn't stopped? Where would you be right now if you had just kept going? Which is a powerful thought to think about.
It absolutely is.
Where would you be if you had not quit? And we get so focused on where we are right now and maybe frustrated with not being where we want to be. But we get so focused on that and being impatient in the moment of not being where we want to be tomorrow, because we're not there yet, that we stop, and then we don't ever get to where we could be and what we could accomplish if we hadn't stopped in the first place.
So this is going to be what I keep in my mind the next time I go to a dance class, because, hey, one of my favorite things to do is go to a dance class, wink. And I love doing it. It's like the way that I've continued the sport side of me, because I used to be a gymnast, and that sport has a shelf life. You retire and you're ready to retire at a young age. But I've really come to appreciate the stuff that you can do longer and later on in your life. And I absolutely love to dance. I'm doing contemporary dance, and there are certain things I don't do very well. And it frustrates me. Like, you ask me to do pirouette, spin around a little bit, I'm probably going to fall over. And that's just how it is. But I've been working at it. And sometimes I go in and I'm like, we're doing stuff today.
You are a fantastic dancer, by the way. Fantastic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like there are a couple areas that I could use a little improvement, a couple little technique things, I am working at it.
When I, as the amateur viewer, watched you did like a little dance performance, a talent show that we did at Comedy Sports one time, and I was like, oh, wow, I knew she could do improv, but what is this?
Yeah, it's a side of me that when you finally see it come out, it's like, oh, that's in there. In fact, when I used to do gymnastics, because one of my favorite things about gymnastics was actually doing floor routines, which is primarily dance until you have to tumble, which is the part that scared me. So then when I figured out I could take that part out, I was like, oh, this is perfect. A lot of people knew about this already, and I'm just cluing in. But it was funny because I used to like choreograph my own routines, and I used to get really excited about it. And my teammates would see me at practice. I remember in college, they'd see me at practice all the time. And the first time they saw me compete in a meet, like there's this performance side of me that turns on, and it's a little sexy. And they were like, at the end of my floor routine, I looked, nobody, like none of my teammates were clapping. They were just like, their mouths were hanging open. They were like, who? Because she wasn't at practice for quite some time now, but it was like all that work that I had done. It was in there. And then the performance side of you comes out.
The consistency that you've done behind the scenes, that you've done behind the scenes that nobody even knew about. I mean, that's the premise of every dance movie, but that's the part that they, step out, or whatever those movies are called, Step It Out, or Step Out, or Step Up, or Step Down.
Or Melissa Forziat, the gymnastics.
But in the movies, I mean, this is how impatient we are as a society. This is how impatient we are as a world. Those movies, they always in the actual, like the grind part of it, the rehearsal part of it, the part where you actually have to be consistent and do the work day in and day out and day in and day out to get to that jaw drop moment. that is encapsulated in a quick, like 3-minute series of, with music in the background playing, and it's just sweeping through, a year-long journey of consistency. And then all of a sudden they're live at the day of the performance. And
isn't that a shame? Like when you say that, it occurs to me that we gloss over consistency by making it montages. In every source of media, it's like that part's not the exciting part. So we just say, people don't need to see that. Let's put some fancy music to it. We're going to cut back and forth between some scenes of them grinding it out. And then we're going to show the great thing that happened. And I think it's so notable that you said that, because we really do put an emphasis on that piece. But that's the part that's the montage, that's actually the majority of our lives.
Yeah. The montage is our life. The montage is our life. And we've been conditioned to live in a world where the montage is just the part to get to the good part. And we don't put enough value on the montage. And the montage is the boringness. It's the day in and the day out. It's the consistency. And, you mentioned the sexiness of it. There's nothing sexy about consistency. It's really boring. It's super boring. Nobody wants to see the highlight reel in your Instagram stories of the consistency that you put in, because it's really boring. We even do the fast camera mode for that. If we were to show that, that'd be the fast camera mode.
It would be like the time lapse that just shows you sitting in an Excel spreadsheet for like days on end, but it's you just still sitting.
Oh my gosh. So true. So true. All right, guys, if you're hopping on, we have a giveaway. Melissa's going to give a giveaway away of one of her resources that she uses in her business. And so whoever can comment and say something fun that Melissa shares about herself and catches it and drops it in the comments, one lucky person will win, and we will choose. Well, Melissa, I'll give you the power to choose the lucky winner at the end.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of created mayhem in the chat because I wasn't even subtle about it. I just shoehorned like a whole bunch of things straight in there. So I see people getting creative with many different things that were mentioned. And I appreciate you. This is going to be a very interesting comment section.
But only one person can win. So just keep, now we're getting in all caps, dancing.
Yep, got a few people in there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So anyways, moving on. This is just so fun to talk to you about all of this. I want you to talk a little bit about how you view the role of consistency in the habits you form and how you think as a person and a professional, and how important that is when you're your own boss and you don't have anybody telling you what to do every day.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack in that question, because I think the person that I've shown up as a professional and the person I've shown up as a person have been sort of two different things in my life. And that's something over the last several years that I've been really thinking about in a deeper way, and thinking, how can I make sure there's balance in both of those places? Because as a professional, consistency, consistency, I could barely turn it off. Like, when you talk about, even before I had my own business, when I was working 9-to-5 jobs, I was not working 9 to 5. I would be the person who'd bring their laptop home at the end of the night, and I would do my best work after work hours. And so the consistency was always there from a professional standpoint. In a way, I actually needed to look at the rest of my life and find a way to create consistency in other areas so that I could be healthier, so that I could be more balanced. So I think like the professionals, and then when I started my business, nobody knows you're there until you start telling them. And honestly, it's like any one of those like sort of catch-22 situations where, somebody only wants to work with you if they know that you've got experience, but you can't get experience until somebody's worked with you. And so you just keep pounding the pavement, even in your own business. And you keep getting out there and you keep building your experience, your clientele, your resume, your knowledge base. And it takes time and consistency to do all of these things. It's all these facets of what you do. Plus, as a business owner, there are certain things that are demanded of you for the business itself, like that probably aren't your comfort zone. Like, you don't get to be inconsistent in your bookkeeping, like even if you know nothing about what to do. So you have to figure it out, then you have to get consistent with it. And all that stuff is a given in your business. For me, on the personal side though, I don't know if anybody else, I'm really curious to know, for those of you who are listening in and you're in the chat right now, what do you have a strength? Like, are you like really super focused on your professional life or really super focused on your personal life? Do you feel like you have a blind spot in some area? Because for me, the professional side was always the easy part. Even if I was having to work at it, it didn't feel like hard work. It was when in the last few years, I started to say, how about I also like maybe take better care of myself or like focus on the relationships in my life, or maybe like being nice to people and like moving to a place where people are friendly, like instead of just like focus.
Maybe being nice to yourself by taking care of yourself.
Yeah. So for me, I've put a lot of effort in the last few years to finding ways to find consistency that's achievable for me in those areas. And so it's been an interesting exercise to figure out what a good balance looks like in my consistency. And I found that by thinking about those things and being intentional about it, I'm having like the best season of my life right now at a time when most people are honestly not. And I totally get that. But for me, this is the product of spending years thinking about what I need to be doing and then being really consistent about it. And I think that can happen. It doesn't happen overnight, like we've said, but you can totally get there. It's just about keeping at what you should be doing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So many good things that you said. One of the things that I love that you said was no one knows until you tell them. No one knows until you tell them. I mean, we talk about unpacking things. No one knows anything until you tell them. No one knows how you're thinking. Nobody knows how they could support you. Nobody knows how they could help you. Nobody knows how you could anything. And one of the things that's so powerful in the business that Molly and I do is enrolling people, enrolling your family, enrolling your friends, enrolling the people in your world into where you're going, into the vision of the future that you want to walk towards together. And if you go there independently and you go there on your own, everybody's like, what are you doing? Why are you spending all of this time doing this? And they don't see the vision behind it. They don't see the direction behind it. They don't see the why behind it. And likewise, if you launch your own business and you're now your own boss and you're now in control of everything that is, where you're going, and you don't have anybody directing you, you are now the captain of your own ship. No one can support you if you don't tell them what you're up to and you don't tell them where you're going. And so I just thought of a new question. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Ooh. I just thought of something I want to ask you. When you launched your own business, did you encounter any feelings of uncomfortability? So feeling uncomfortable talking about what you're doing? Did you feel any feelings of like, I don't have the credibility yet because I haven't been there yet. And so I don't have the credibility to talk about it or to get people on board with what I'm doing because I haven't yet earned that status. Did you have any feelings of doubting your self-worth to talk about it before you felt like you were ready to talk about it?
Oh, yes. And I think it's worth dialing it back a second here because here's how my business started. So I had been working in the Olympic world, doing all those jobs. It's the kind of thing like the Olympics happens, your job's done. Go find a new job in that world. And there's always events that are happening. But at the time that when I first got to Seattle, I was looking for work like that, but just the timing of things and the locations, there's a lot of stuff happening in Europe. A lot of those people like had passports that worked that they didn't need to hire an American to make it happen. So I found that there was this gap. And I was in Seattle long enough that life started to happen. I was like, well, maybe I could look here too. So I started to look around and look at, different sport organizations. I mean, I hit up every organization that made sense for what I did. And I spoke to some high-powered people in the sports world, and all they cared about was what I had done in Seattle. And I was like, I just got here. You don't want to talk about Are you sure you don't want to talk about my Olympic Games experience? Okay, you want to talk about the local festival. Okay, that's fine. I'll talk to you next year. So I was just really turned around, and I knew I had to network a whole lot. And in one conversation that I was having with somebody who had been I had been connected with this person by other people who I talked about a certain thing with, and I had to stay consistent with my message. So, he had a position. He was a managing director of an arts museum, and he had an open position under him in marketing, but it was sort of like one of those jobs. Like, we basically just submit the same newspaper advertisement every month, and that's your job. It's like, I don't know that that's going to be interesting, but we're sitting down and we're talking about all these ideas that he has for big projects, strategic event and marketing projects he wants to get off the ground, but haven't been approved yet. And I was really fascinated by it. So at the end of the conversation, he says, there's a marketing position open under me. I was like, yeah, I know that. I looked at your jobs that were open before I came here, and it doesn't sound like something that is a great fit for me. It sounds like very repetitive stuff and not really strategic thinking. But what you're describing, these events, if you ever want to get them going, I'd take you on as a client. And then I blinked a few times, I shook my head, got back on the bus, went home, and went, what have I done with my life? It was like this man said to me, here, silver platter, I have a job. I kind of like you. You seem fine. I'll put you on a short list. And it was like, no, how about you create a position for an event that doesn't exist with budget you don't have to hire me for a business that I don't have either.
This is the premise of every movie.
It was like that moment you're sure you've had one of the most epic fails of your life.
Yeah.
That's what that moment. I was like, well, that was self-sabotage, folks. If you're looking it up in the dictionary, that's the moment. Me on the bus with my head in my hands, just thinking, how am I going to pay for my life? And then 1 week later, he was talking to a board member of his who was on the board for a nonprofit that did have a project exactly like what we were describing. And they literally sent him an email and said, do you know any freelance marketing and event managers out there? And he was like, I just met one a week ago. And I got my first client. But here's the thing. I still didn't have a business, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I had no idea what I had signed up for. Yeah. I didn't know how to even, what do I need to do legally? Do I need a bank account? What's the deal with taxes? I had the simplest of questions that one should not have at this stage of the game when you're that deep in with a potential client. And by the way, it doesn't happen like this. And I know now that you can talk to 200 people and none of them care about what you do. They don't need you. They're not going to hire you. I talked to one person and I had a business. And then my challenge was to figure out what I had just done. And what happened by accident was maintained by hard work and researching and establishing for myself, here's what a business is. Here's what it looks like to have more than one client, because one client does not a business make. And here's
the thing I want to interject real quick is that you weren't lucky because you'd already put in all of the work in the years prior, where it took 40 years for you to talk to the right person randomly and have a business. That didn't happen overnight, because all the work that you had done in the consistency in your business beforehand, where all of a sudden you step into with confidence and you say something like that with confidence, where, head in the lap on the bus on the way home, you're like, what have I done? What have I done? But you actually have the skills. You actually had the skills to do it because you'd already put in the hours of work and hours of consistency before on the back end, where now you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, or you can't say the right thing. What am I saying? It could take 400 people to say that sentence, but if you say it to the right person, that's all that matters. And you were set up to be successful because of all the work that you'd already done.
It's so true. And honestly, really the whole conversation that I had with that man had been a pitch, because I had a whole adulthood of experience working in the industries he was asking questions about. We were having a really good mind-to-mind conversation about his ideas. And I had ideas on how to make his ideas happen, because I was so immersed in what he was talking about from all of my experience to that point. So I didn't know I was about to pitch myself. The pitch just came out.
Yeah.
But the whole conversation was a pitch, and it was because I was able to speak his language. We were speaking the same language. So I guess, when you ask the question, like, have you ever, questioned whether you should be doing what you're doing, or, I don't know, I guess there's a imposter syndrome kind of in the background there. My business started with me questioning what I was doing. And then it continued, I became a speaker. There are all these elements. I started online courses. There are all these elements of my business that I had no idea I could do until I said, I think I should be doing this. I need this in my business. And then I figure it out. And, in the beginning, you hope that some people are going to connect with you so that you can start getting experience working with clients and get some people to back you and get some third parties to hire you to speak. And as you get more of that, I like to think of it as putting little feathers in my cap. It may be a really small feather at first, but that's your feather. And you just keep collecting them, and then they get bigger, and then boom, it's all feathers. It's amazing how it happens, but it takes a while, and it takes these little moments, and it takes you appreciating those little moments for what they are and saying, you know what? Not everybody's going to be wowed by this, but I'm going to be wowed by this. And
I love that. Appreciate what you have accomplished. Appreciate what you have done. And I mean, this goes to the whole thing of comparison, because you could compare where you are compared to what other people have accomplished in their own, business, being a marketing expert. And I'm not there yet. And I want to be there, and I'm not there yet. But if you take the time to celebrate where you are as opposed to where you come from, and just really, appreciate that, how powerful a thought is that? We don't take time to do that because we're so busy comparing where we want to be.
And if you think about it, if you go back to how long, what was it, 26 years to build the Eiffel Tower, and, 40 years to, there must have been some moments there that were special from Michelangelo. There must have been a moment he looked up at the Sistine Chapel and he was like, oh, I finished that part. That's pretty good, huh? And there was a lot left to go. He had another 20 years in him. But, there was this day that he was like, oh, I've been trying to get this part right for a week now. And if you don't have moments like that, this man would not have made it.
Oh my gosh. Small wins along the way.
I don't know him personally, but I have to think that he had a couple moments of appreciation along the way. And that's how we get through the consistency of it all. Because honestly, if we're not going to be an overnight success in most of the things that we do, if we know that we're going to have patience, and we know that it's going to take time to get to the goal, how can you keep yourself motivated along the way to continue that, without it being manufactured, without it burning you out? And I think that has to come from somewhere taking some sort of pleasure in the journey. And if you can't do it because of the hard work, if you can't feel the pleasure from that, maybe you feel the pleasure from these little goals that you achieve along the way to get there. And sort of the gratification of knowing, oh, I did this today. Yeah. And knowing that it's heading you in the right direction.
So good. See, plotting, again, the vision of where you're going, and knowing that you take time to acknowledge, this is how far I've come from where I started. Celebrate yourself, celebrate your progress, celebrate your consistency, celebrate your victories. And then with the vision of this is where I'm going, and that's going to be what keeps you motivated to keep doing that day in and day out. We could talk about this all day, but oh my gosh, so many good comments here. We could literally talk about, you also mentioned something about fear that I can't even remember exactly what you said, but it was such a powerful thought about stepping into fear, and so many things. I think we need to have you on again, because there's so many things that we could unpack that we don't have time to. Enjoying the journey, the pleasure of the journey, enjoying the moment, celebrating the moments, and seeing the vision of where you want to end up and where you want to be. So powerful. We do have to pick a winner. So I'm going to leave that in your hands. One lucky person will win a free ebook from you. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that what we're giving away, a free ebook?
Yeah, it's called Small Business Marketing on a Budget. Hopefully the person who's about to win, there's a use for that in your lives, because small business marketing on a budget, I'm going to give you a lot of ideas on how to market your business on a budget. If you have a business, this is a great resource for you. And the winner, the person that I saw write the word dance first. In fact, this person wrote it multiple times, and they even made 2 comments about it, and they still got in first. And he is named Jeff Davis.
What? Jeff!
Whoa!
Yay. Awesome. Send me a message and I will connect you to get a copy of that free ebook. Congratulations to Jeff Davis. And it always feels good to win something. So
that's good stuff. Right. That's, for those of you who did not win today, you keep at it, okay? Because if there's one thing that you learned,
stay consistent. Stay consistent.
It could be you next time. I promise. Jeff's glory is not your defeat. All
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Well, we have to wrap up because this is delightful, and I feel like we could talk forever and ever. But tell our audience where they can find you, how they can find you, how they can connect with you after this live is over.
The best place to go to find me is my website, which is melissaforziatevents.com. And hopefully we'll be able to put a link to that somewhere, which would be handy. And if you're there, you're going to see a lot for small businesses, a lot about marketing. But I'm also a big believer in just encouragement. So, encouragement is also a vibe you'll get even if you're not a small business owner. I'm a big believer that, especially for the small business audience, you're so often in a silo doing your own thing, not seeing how everybody else is doing around you and feeling like you're not doing enough. And so, for anybody who feels like that, especially right now, because aren't we all in that situation? Mm-hmm. I feel like encouragement is the way, because you can get where you want to go. You just have to keep working at it.
Powerful sentence. You can get where you want to go. You just have to keep working at it. You can get to where you want to go. You just have to keep working at it. I think mic drop right there.
I wasn't on that. Let's see.
There we go.
There we go. Off screen. That's okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes, we will drop the link to your website as we post the replay. Thank you so much for being with us today. I know that what you shared is invaluable for our audience. We so appreciate you. I appreciate you. It's been so fun to reconnect too. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. So let's wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts, Melissa? I mean, you had a mic drop moment already, so.
Well, I'll just say thank you for having me, because thank you never replaces a mic drop. So thank you for having me. And thank you to everybody who was, providing such great comments in the chat. It's kind of fun to see how the conversation evolved. Yes. So I appreciate all your time and sticking with us.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we will music it out here and we will catch you guys later. Oh, this is like a jam.